What if frugality isn't just about what you stop buying, but about the everyday habits that quietly scam you out of time, money, and peace while pretending to be smart? But here's the part nobody talks about. Some of the most praised frugal habits, the ones we've been told are essential, might actually be keeping you stuck, tired, and further from financial freedom than you might think. They might be total scams. Hi, my friend. If you're new here, my name is Sara and I'm the owner of FrozenPennies.com. I'm a financial coach and the author of the international best-selling book, Fundamentally Frugal. Link below. In this video, I'm walking you through the 9 everyday frugal habits I now believe might be a complete scam. Not because they don't save you a few bucks here and there, but because they distract you from what really matters. Building a calm, clear, and intentional life with money that works for you. But first, here's what frugal women do a little bit differently. Most people think that they know what frugal women look like. They picture someone who hasn't bought new clothes in 5 years, eats plain rice and beans every night, and spends her weekends couponing like a second job. Maybe you've been that woman, or maybe you've avoided frugality altogether because it sounds a little bit like punishment. But that stereotype isn't just outdated. It's part of the scam. Some of the most common frugal advice out there, it's not really helping. It's keeping women small, stressed, and stuck in habits that look smart on the surface, but don't actually lead to peace, freedom, or wealth. Now, I'm not saying that frugal living tips aren't a great way to get started, but frugal women who thrive, who actually feel good about the money, aren't depriving themselves. They're not grinding through dozens of tiny sacrifices hoping it adds up to security. They're living well, often better than people who spend twice as much. And they're doing it by making radical different choices. Sometimes those choices look indulgent. Sometimes they go against everything that we've been taught about saving money. But underneath it all, there's clarity. There's a mindset shift that changes how they see money and what they no longer waste money on. Let's break down exactly what frugal women do differently and the 9 everyday smart habits they've stopped buying into because they finally saw the scam for what it was. They spend more on the right things. One of the biggest misconceptions is that frugal women always choose the cheapest option. But the women I work with who are truly financially free, the ones who aren't consistently stressed about money, they don't default into cheap. They spend on purpose. Let me give you an example. A client of mine used to buy $15 shoes from a fast fashion site every 2 months. They were cute, but poorly made. Her feet hurt, she had blisters, and the shoes ended up in the trash by the end of the season. One day, she decided to invest, saving her money, invest in a $120 pair of leather flats after doing her research. 5 years later, she still wears them. They molded to her feet. She gets compliments every time. That one pair outlasted 10 cheaper pairs and saved her money, time, and frustration. Frugal women understand the value of cost per use. They know that the $80 cast iron skillet they used every night is a better investment than the $20 nonstick pan that warps and scratches in 6 months. They'll spend $300 on a tailored winter coat that they wear for a decade, but they'll skip the $40 fast fashion haul that falls apart in the wash. It's not about spending less. It's about spending smarter. Frugal women no longer fall for the scam of buying cheap over and over. Whether it's fast fashion, flimsy kitchen gadgets, or disposable home goods, they've realized that low price doesn't equal value. The scam here? Thinking cheap means smart. In reality, cheap often costs us more over time because we're constantly replacing broken or worn out things. They've traded $10, $15 pairs of shoes for one $120 pair of shoes that lasts 5 years. That's just not better for their budget. It's better for their lifestyle. They budget for energy, not just dollars. Frugal women don't just protect their wallets. They protect their energy. Especially in midlife, they recognize that emotional spending is often a symptom of deeper stress, overwhelm, or complete burnout. So instead of white-knuckling their way through a restrictive budget, they build habits and routines that give them peace. Here's what that looks like. They automate their bills and savings so they don't have to think about them. They unsubscribe from marketing emails that trigger impulse spending. They plan meals in a low-pressure way that avoids last-minute takeout. They give themselves permission to have spending money for fun things, so they're not constantly rebelling against their own rules. Frugal women aren't afraid of a little indulgence. In fact, they often plan for it. One woman I know sets aside $50 a month in a treat yourself fund. She doesn't feel guilty about buying high-end chocolate or going to the movies solo with buttery popcorn because it's in the budget. Sometimes if she wants something big like a ticket to a Broadway show, she doesn't spend for the last few months. That small act of self-care keeps her from blowing $300 in one emotional Amazon binge. And here's the biggest shift. Frugal women don't waste energy tracking every dime once their systems are in place. They trust their habits. They revisit their budget monthly, not daily, because their life is already aligned with their values. That's real freedom. They've stopped buying the lie that budgeting has to feel hard, heavy, and rigid. The real scam? Believing you have to track every penny or live in a spreadsheet to get ahead financially. They've also stopped falling into the trap of emotional spending, a sneaky, very expensive scam we pull on ourselves. Whether it's a $9 lipstick after a rough day or a $200 treat yourself haul, frugal women recognize that the short-term fix rarely solves the long-term stress, unless it's planned for. They choose rest, structure, and emotional clarity instead of throwing money at their burnout. They filter every dollar through their core values. Frugal women don't follow cookie-cutter budgets. They don't care what their neighbors are buying, what Instagram is recommending, or what the financial gurus say is essential. Every dollar they spend flows through a personal filter. Does this reflect what I actually care about? Let me tell you about two frugal women with completely different values. One spends $800 a month on groceries and doesn't blink. She buys organic, shops locally, supports small farms, and sees food as her family's most important investment. But she drives a 14-year-old paid-off car, hasn't upgraded her phone in 5 years, and does her own home repairs because none of those things matter to her. Another woman I coached lived on boxed pasta and budget ground beef, but pays $300 a month for a private art class for herself and professional music teacher for her daughter. She cuts back everywhere else so she can fund what lit her and her daughter's soul on fire. Neither of them is wrong. That's the point. Frugal living isn't about deprivation, it's about clarity. It's about knowing what actually matters to you and having the courage to ignore the rest. When your money choices reflect your values, you're less likely to impulse spend, compare yourself to others, or feel like you're failing. You don't need as much willpower because your life is aligned. That's why frugal women seem so calm and confident about their finances. It's not about the money. It's about the meaning behind it. Here's where the scam gets even trickier. Our culture consistently tells us that success looks a certain way. A new phone every year, trendy home decor, a closet full of clothes, expensive vacations. Frugal women see through that. They don't buy things just because they're trending or expected. They've stopped wasting money on what other people value and start putting their dollar where their joy is. They've unsubscribed from the idea that happiness can be bought at Target, and they've canceled the myth that you need more to feel better. They simplify instead of obsessing. One of the most surprising things that I've noticed about most frugal women, they're not glued to the spreadsheet. They're not logging into their budget app 5 times a day. They're not agonizing over every little transaction. Why? Because they've simplified. Instead of tracking every coffee or gas station snack, they create spending categories that make sense for their life and give themselves a little bit of wiggle room. Instead of constantly tweaking their budget, they use high-level systems like a weekly meal plan, a cash envelope for fun money, and a Sunday money reset to stay on track without that mental load. One woman I interviewed used what she called the 3 rule. She only tracks 3 categories: groceries, household, and fun. Everything else is automated. As long as she's under budget in those 3 areas, she doesn't worry about the rest. Another frugal family I worked with has a monthly pause week every 4th week. They don't buy anything except essentials. It resets their spending patterns and keeps lifestyle creep in check without obsessing over daily numbers. Frugal women know that the goal isn't control, it's ease. The simpler the system, the more likely you are to stick to it. When life gets busy or stressful, which, let's face it, it always does, simplicity wins. Checking 47 budget categories, downloading every finance app, checking your bank balance 5 times a day, that's the hustle version of budgeting, and frugal women see it for what it is. A scam on your time and sanity. They don't buy into the pressure of micromanaging every transaction. They know that simplicity is sustainable. And here's another scam they've stopped buying into. The idea that staying on top of your finances means never enjoying your money. Even if you're trying to get out of debt, frugal women simplify so they can enjoy, with less stress and more ease. They redefine what enough means. Now, this might be the most radical thing frugal women do. They stop chasing the more. In a world that's constantly screaming, buy this, you need that, upgrade now, frugal women hit pause, they take a breath, they decide consciously what enough looks like for them. And here's the thing. Enough doesn't mean the bare minimum. It means satisfaction. Maybe it's 3 high-quality skincare products instead of a drawer full of unused bottles. Maybe it's 4 pairs of jeans that fit like a glove instead of 20 that make you feel, meh. Maybe it's 1 carefully planned vacation a year instead of a dozen weekend getaways that blow your budget. That's us. One of my favorite examples, a woman who wanted a cozy reading nook. She skipped highlighting her hair and getting her nails done for 2 months and instead bought 1 luxe armchair, a secondhand lamp, and the exact blanket she'd been eyeing cheaper on Amazon. She used that space every single day and went back to the salon, but still hasn't been back to get her nails done. Frugal women often get clear on what adds value and what's just noise. If you've ever added another throw pillow to your couch, a 4th pair of black boots to your closet, or upgraded your coffee machine just because someone online said it was life-changing, you've been sold the scam of not enough. Frugal women unsubscribe from that noise. They've learned that satisfaction doesn't come from quantity. It comes from clarity. When you define your own version of enough, you stop chasing more. That's how they walk past aisles of seasonal decor, skip flash sales, and endless Amazon must-haves and feel nothing but calm. Want to know your frugal style? If that last point made you think, okay, but what kind of frugal woman am I? You're gonna love this. I recorded an entire video breaking down the 7 frugal archetypes because yes, there's more than one way to do this. Whether you are a strategic saver, a balanced beauty, a homestead hero, or maybe something in between, this video will help you figure out your natural money style, how you approach spending, and which frugal habits will actually stick for you. You can find the link up here in the iCard. Up here. Also, you can find it in the description. And trust me, it's a fun one. You might just see yourself in ways you never expected. They delay gratification, but not joy. Frugal women are masters of delayed gratification. But here's the twist. They don't delay the joy. They separate instant gratification from lasting satisfaction. That means they'll wait for the right time to buy something they want, but they don't deny themselves endlessly. One woman I worked with wanted a backyard fire pit for years. She saved slowly, watched the sales, and eventually found one secondhand that was perfect. The satisfaction she felt roasting marshmallows with her grandkids wasn't just about the item. It was about the journey to get it. That moment was richer because it was intentional. This mindset leads into every area of life. Frugal women get dopamine, not from buying, but from the planning, the preparing, the waiting, and the achieving. They don't feel deprived. They feel powerful. The scam here? Thinking you need to buy something now to feel better, complete, or successful. Frugal women know better. They delay gratification with purpose, but never delay the joy. They plan for the things that matter instead of impulse buying what doesn't. They've stopped buying the $12 candle just because and saved for something that makes them real memories, like a weekend camping trip with their kids or a secondhand fire pit in the backyard for nights with friends. They reuse, repurpose, and repair creatively. While others throw away and replace, frugal women see potential in what already exists. And we're not just talking about rinsing out peanut butter jars, although yes, we do that too. We're talking about creative problem solving. One woman turned her child's outgrown jeans into patchwork placemats for her outside patio. Another repainted old mason jars and used them as bathroom storage. A third fixed her broken dryer with a $20 part, a YouTube tutorial, and a screwdriver. This isn't about being cheap, it's about being resourceful. Frugal women often enjoy the process of solving a problem without throwing money at it. It builds confidence, reduces waste, and fosters a strong sense of self-reliance. Frugal women see through the scam of single-use convenience, the $6 organizing bin, the $14 refill pouch, the $20 gadget that only does one thing and clutters your drawer. Instead, they use what they have. They fix broken items instead of tossing them. They get creative instead of clicking add to cart. Because the real scam isn't owning too little, it's owning too much that adds no value and quietly drains your time, space, and money. They shop like detectives. Frugal women don't casually scroll and buy. They research like it's a full-time job. They read reviews, compare prices, wait for sales, and check cashback apps. They walk into a store with a mission, not a mood. One woman I know was looking for blackout curtains. Instead of grabbing the first Amazon listing because she was being impatient, she waited until her local Target had them on clearance. She used her store card for an extra 5% off and stacked a mobile coupon on top. Total savings over $40. She didn't waste hours doing this. She had a system. That's the difference. Frugal women enjoy the thrill of getting what they need without overpaying. It becomes kind of a game, not a compulsive way, but in a clever, strategic one. Frugal women no longer fall for the sale ends tonight pressure. They don't panic shop or convenience scroll. They research, they price match, they time their purchases perfectly. They've stopped believing the scam that buying fast is smart or necessary. In fact, they know that urgency is a marketing trick designed to bypass your logic. One time I saved 85% on a comforter set by just waiting for Kohl's markdowns. The entire set cost me $35. They build no-spend muscles regularly. Frugal women treat no-spend periods like mental fitness training. These short bursts, whether it's a no-spend week, weekend, or month, they recalibrate their awareness of habit, temptation, and routine. Now, we do a pantry challenge every January. We shop our shelves, use up random ingredients, and avoid the grocery store except for essentials. Not only does it reset our grocery budget after the holidays, but it also forces creativity in the kitchen and reminds us of what we already have. These resets aren't about punishment. They're about refreshing perspective. Frugal women don't wait until they're in a financial crisis to rein things in. They regularly flex their discipline muscles so they stay strong. Here's a scam most people don't realize they're buying into. The idea that every day needs to include a transaction to feel satisfying. A coffee, a little online browsing, something to treat yourself. Frugal women break that cycle. They take no-spend weekends, no-buy months, and pantry challenges not as a punishment, but as a practice. Every reset is a reminder that they already have enough and they don't need to spend to feel fulfilled. That's real power in a consumer-driven world. They learn continuously. This might be the most underrated frugal habit. Frugal women are lifelong learners. They're consistently reading, listening, and observing. They join budget groups, follow money podcasts, read blogs. Hi! And swap ideas with friends. They stay open. One woman told me she learned how to do minor car maintenance just from TikTok, saving her hundreds in service fees. Another took a free online class in personal finance during her lunch break every day for a month. That single course helped her negotiate a better deal on her mortgage refinance. Frugal women don't assume they know it all. They treat knowledge like a form of wealth and invest in it accordingly. The final scam: believing that managing money well is something you either get or you don't. Frugal women reject that myth. They read, they research, and they ask questions. They learn from every mistake and from other people's mistakes too. They've stopped buying the lie that they're just bad with money. They know better now, and that mindset, it's priceless. What they know that others don't. If all of this goes against everything that you've been taught about budgeting, it's because it's a different mindset. Frugal women know something most people don't. You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to do it intentionally. They've stopped chasing deals and started chasing meaning. They know that saving $10 on something you don't need isn't a win. That peace is more valuable than points. That you don't have to earn, rest, or justify your joy. They don't just live on less. They live with more clarity, more space, and more purpose. So if all of this goes against what you've always been told about saving money, that's because it's different. Frugal women aren't falling for the scam anymore. Not the ones that say you have to deprive yourself, hustle harder, or nickel and dime your way to peace. They've stopped chasing little savings that lead nowhere and started focusing on choices that they actually build a life that they want to live. They don't just live on less, they live with more intention, more clarity, and more freedom. So maybe the question isn't, how can I spend less? Maybe the better question is, what's still quietly draining me? And what am I ready to let go of for good? If this video gave you new perspective, please hit that like button and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, what's one smart money habit you've let go of because it just didn't serve you anymore? Because frugal living isn't about restriction. It's about refusing to fall for the wrong things, saying yes to what truly matters, and watching this video next.